Welcome. This is an adjourned regular meeting of the City Council and Needles Public Utility Authority. City of Needles, Tuesday, August 30th, 5:10 p.m. Council executive session. The mayor and council members may be attending this meeting via Microsoft Teams. Roll call.
Councilmember Longacre and Mayor Williams on the executive session line. Vice Mayor Paget.
Here.
Councilmember Thomas. Here. Thank you.
Public comments pertaining to the executive session items. A 3-minute time limit per person has been established. I see no public comment. Recess to executive session. Dale?
Conference with legal counsel. Anticipated litigation, significant exposure to litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9D2 and/or 3. Conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation regarding significant exposure to litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9D2 and/or 3. One potential case related to claim received August 22, 2022 from attorney for John James Bresnahan Zainati related to alleged April 29, 2022 dog bite incident.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. So is there a report out of executive session?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. The council met in closed session on item A, conference with legal counsel. Anticipated litigation, significant exposure to litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9D2 and/or 3. And I want to note for the record that Councilmember Zach Longacre recused himself on that item due to the fact that he works in the cannabis industry, and this particular item related to potential liability exposure in connection with the cannabis industry. And so that should be noted in the minutes that he recused himself on that item. On item B, there was no reportable action on that item. Item B, conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation regarding significant exposure to litigation pursuant to Government Code 54956.9D2 and/or 3. One potential case related to claim received August 22nd, 2022 from attorney for John James Bresnahan Zainati related to alleged April 29th, 2022 dog bite incident. There was no reportable action taken in closed session, and that concludes the report out.
Okay, thank you. So we'll move on to invocation. If you bow with me, please, dear Lord. Please help us keep you in the forefront of our thoughts as we go through these items for the city. Help us make the best decisions for what's good for the entire city, Lord. We love you and we ask this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Can you also do a pledge of allegiance? Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Approval of the agenda.
Mr. Mayor, we want to move a couple things around on the agenda. I'm going to ask Dale to restate the order in which things will be considered.
Okay, Mayor Williams, we're going to be addressing agenda item number 28, the Minigar presentation as the first item, order of business. Then after that, in order to take care of a majority of the balance of the items, we're going to make a motion to hopefully approve all the consent calendar items for items 4 through 23 and 30 through 40 with one motion. Only those, of course, that any council member would like to do so. And then we'll continue with a presentation by Captain Tarango.
Okay.
So, Mr. Mayor, you need a motion to approve the agenda as stated by Dave.
Right.
I move to approve the agenda as stated.
I'll second that.
Call for the vote.
Barrett,
Yes.
Belt. Yes. Paget,
Yes.
Longacre.
Yes.
Thank you.
Any conflicts of interest?
Your Honor, it's my understanding that as to item number 11, Councilmember Merritt will be recusing herself. I'm not sure, I'll let her state the reason why.
Yes, I'll be recusing myself on number 11 as it's close to my house, my property.
Okay, and then number 12, my understanding is Vice Mayor Paget will be recusing himself on item number 12. Which
Yes,
is,
on item 12, I am, live next door, or I have a property next door to, or across the street from the,
okay, so because those
Subject.
are on the consent calendar, the minutes just need to reflect that Councilmember Merritt recused on item 11 for the reasons stated, and Vice Mayor Paget on number 12, but otherwise they can vote on the consent calendar with that recusal noted in the minutes.
Okay. Thank
Mayor
you.
Williams, I believe we need also an excused absent for Councilmember Evans and Campbell.
All right, we'll take a motion.
I'll make that motion to excuse the counselors Evans and Campbell.
second that.
Need a second?
What's that?
Vice Mayor
Mm,
Paget
yeah.
seconded the motion.
Thank you.
All
Call
right.
for the vote.
Thank you.
Councilmember Merritt,
Yes.
Pageant,
Yes.
Belt. Yes. Longacre.
Yes.
Thank you.
Is there any correspondence?
No, Your Honor.
All right. Any public appearances, persons wishing to address the council or the MPUA on subjects other than those scheduled or request to do so at this time? Is there any public appearance?
Yes.
All right.
Yes, Your
Now-
Honor. Planning Commissioner Beard will be making a public appearance.
Okay, now?
Now, good evening,
Okay,
Mr.
now-
Mayor.
Hi,
you
Barbara,
there?
How are you?
Fine, how are
I'm
you?
here.
I'm glad.
Okay.
Do you have air conditioning?
Yes.
Good. And
Oh.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, both here and on TV. I just wanted to mention briefly that I went to the Planning Commission seminar in Rancho Cucamonga last Friday and with our community services director, and it was absolutely incredible. We started about 9 a.m. We got done around 4, and it was nonstop, incredible, wonderful information that I have not ever had since I've been a planning commissioner. And it was primarily San Bernardino County cities. So I don't know if we had approximately 200 people. I'm not sure how many showed up, but I would assume just about every city in the county was there. And we had people from outside the county as well. And we had the key representatives from the state and the county, and the speakers were eloquent, they were intelligent, they were experts in their fields, and it was absolutely brilliant. So I'm going to give a more full report at the next Planning Commission meeting, but I just wanted to say thank you to all, and I think every planning commissioner needs to go to a meeting like that. It was brilliant. Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara.
We have another public speaker.
Me. I know, we decided I'd go first. I'm Judy Thornton, 1835 South Drive in Mojave Valley. I'm with Needles Tourism and the Friends of the El Garces. I'm going to try to go fast because I have a lot of knowledge, a lot of information that I think y'all would like to know. I have new brochures from the tourism that we just got these today. They're hot off the press, so we will let you hand this out to everybody. They are tourism brochures. They're simple, but they have a lot of information in them, and we will take them around to the hotels and the restaurants and businesses, anybody who would like to use them. I also have brochures hot off the press. These are from Oatman, and they're a great brochure for Oatman. Shoot, things in the way. Anyway, very quickly, this summer we've had about almost 1,150 people through the Algarces, either through tours or events and meetings, which summer is a lot of people and summer is supposed to be pretty slow, but this summer we had the Algarces booked almost every single weekend. We did Spike's birthday on August 13th. First time we had done it, and we were actually very surprised at the response. Had a lot of people in, did a tour of the Algarces, and so we will continue to do that every year. We have a Needles Candidate Forum on September 22nd here. You should all have gotten information about that. At this time, all the candidates will be here. Owen Long will be the moderator, and we hope to see you all here. We have some events coming in. People are coming to us now to do events. 2.5 years of marketing and promoting is finally starting to pay off. And we are getting some big events. We have the Mojave Desert Heritage and Cultural Association. This is their 44th annual rendezvous, and it's their first trip to Needles. They will be here October 7th and the 8th to do tours, go through the museum. That's really exciting for us. They're staying at Goff's, but they're going to come into Needles. We have Kathy Condon, who is a travel writer. She is going to come in mid-October for 2 days with a photographer, and we're going to set her up with some people and in Oatman that she can feature in her travel articles. We have the third annual Trunk or Treat at Santa Fe Park on October 29th. On February 23rd, we have the California Jeep Off-Road Association. They are also going to Goss, but they're going to come into Needles. This is a huge event. So we feel very, very lucky that they have called us and want to come into Needles. And in June of 2023, we have an AA conference, which is going to bring 150 people into the city. They will stay here, they will eat here, they will use the Algarces for their conference. Jan and I have been meeting with the Oatman Chamber of Commerce, so we've started to work very closely with them. We have a guy from a Sacramento bus tour that wants to come in and bring more bus tours in here, which we want to partner with Oatman, because the more we can offer to our visitors, the more visitors we will get. The off-road event we're supposed to have in October, they're having to regroup because a lot of the roads are washed out because of the storms. So NPS and BLM has closed roads. They're still hoping to do it, but it might have to be done in sections. And Tawny, you'll be interested in this. Rob Borden, who is at Saddle Sore Ranch out in Golden Valley, but he works with us on the Route 66 Bike Week. He has done a walking tour in both Oatman and Kingman with the kiosks, and he has contacted us about doing one too. So I knew you would appreciate that. Not necessarily a walking tour in Needles, but we think we can do it with a driving tour. So we're hoping that we can get with him and take care of that. And today, this is really cool. The live rail cam, they put cameras up so that groupies can see the trains. They want to come in at no cost to us and put cameras up at the Algarces. This just all happened this morning. So that's really a cool thing. People will know it's in Needles. They will give us credit for the whole Needles thing. And there'll be a lot of people that can see our trains going in and out. There's one in Gallup. There's one in Flagstaff. I'm sure there's other ones. So, and I think it's doable for us to be able to do it. This is 2.5 years of really hard work, a lot of marketing, a lot of promoting, but we are beginning to realize the fruits of our labors. And we're all volunteers, so we all do this for free. But we are wanting to make sure that people make Needles their destination. Thank you.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, wasn't that though?
There's additional public comments.
My name is Marianne Jones. My address 837 Beach Drive, and I'm here from the museum. And the museum's motto is Save the Past for the Present. And I want to thank the Desert Star. I want to thank Ginny. She just recently, if you haven't read it, 2 weeks ago, she put an article in there about Duke Watkins. That was very good. The family called and they wanted us to get them 10 papers and stuff. And so they were real impressed with it. And I want to thank you because not everyone we have Duke Watkins, but not everyone knew who Duke Watkins was. But today I'm here to tell you about another man, and his name was Bob Brown. And Bob recently passed away a few weeks ago, and he was short of his 105th birthday. And Bob was born in 1917, and he was from the Needles class of 1935, and he was a veteran of World War II. Last year, the museum got a call from the school, and the honor flight of San Diego called the school to get the school to write letters to Bob because he was going back to Washington, D.C. on a flight. So the school contacted us, and we were able to work with them, and they wrote letters to Bob, and also other people, residents, current and past, wrote letters to Bob. And during the flight, they had a mail roll call, and they handed the letters out, and the school gave him a sweatshirt, and he wore that during the flight. And he had so much mail that he had to put his in a duffel bag and take it home. He was so overwhelmed and take it home later. Of course, he's 104. He was the oldest one on the flight. The museum made copies of old newspapers that they gave him on the flight, articles that he was able to read. And Kathy McConnell, she was able to pull up find a picture of Bob's family, that they gave him on the flight. But one of the best things that happened was because we all worked together and because of Facebook and stuff, 1986 graduate, his name is Thomas Cox. He's the chief of counterintelligence for the Pentagon. He contacted me and he wanted to give Bob a flag that was flown over the Pentagon at the dinner in Washington, D.C. that Bob was attending. So Tom went to the dinner and he gave him the flag. He presented him the flag. And then Tom brought his yearbook, his Mystic Maze yearbook from 1986, and he had Bob sign it. So Bob was thrilled. And in his obituary right here that I handed out, you will see that meant a lot to Bob, and it's even in his obituary. So I just wanted to tell you about Bob and let you know that Needles pulled together and made Bob's trip, memorable for him and his family. That's it.
Welcome, JJ DeLeon, Director of Golf here at River's Edge Golf Course in Needles, California. I am here to make awareness of an upcoming golf tournament we have here in it's actually about 8 weeks away, but October 22nd, I have a dyslexia awareness golf tournament coming up. It's not only special to myself, but to Council Member Tana Johnson as well, because she has some family members, including her daughter, Sayla, that suffer from dyslexia. So she came to me a couple months back and basically was brainstorming on how to basically not only necessarily raise money, but make people aware of dyslexia. And me being a golf professional, my go-to is always a golf tournament. So a golf tournament is one of the best ways to not only raise funds, make people aware of dyslexia, but it brings people together as well. So a quick background. So this is a 3-person scramble. So it's 3-man teams or it's co-ed. And there is going to be 44 teams available. We are going to have a hole-in-one prize on number 9. This is very cool. So if anyone does get a hole-in-one on number 9, is going to win an all-inclusive 2-person trip to the Masters tournament next year, So for non-golfers, this is basically the most luxurious golf tournament in the world by far, and it's the hardest tournament to get tickets to. And this is one of the coolest prizes I've ever seen. And when she made me aware of this was available, I told her go for it for sure. So I am very excited about that, and I hope someone does get a home one because I hope I'm their +1. So for those who want to play, please reach out to myself or Tana. We will gladly sign you up. You don't even have to necessarily play in the golf tournament. If you want to donate to the cause, please reach out to myself. For non-golfers, even non-golfers, please feel free to play in this tournament. This is a fun tournament. This is the sole purpose is to raise money for dyslexia. That's the bottom line. So I'm excited about this. And on a side note, it is October 22nd, and we are getting ready to oversee the golf course next week. So by the time this tournament comes along, we are going to have a freshly overseeded golf course. So I am very excited to show off the Needles golf course to not only the city of Needles, but to the tri-state area as well. So that's a little side note to myself. And we are working very hard on the golf course, and I am excited for the upcoming year. And I hope everyone plays. I'm going to leave flyers on the counter right there. So if anyone has any questions about the tournament, if anyone's interested in donating, again, please reach out to myself at the golf course or to Tana Johnston. Thank you all.
A supplement to that, anybody interested can be a whole sponsor, which there'll be your name and your business.
Right.
At that hole, but anyway.
Right. So $50 will get either your business name or your personal name on a sign, and it's going to go on one tee box. So every golfer that plays in a golf tournament is going to see your name on the sign, is going to see you donated, and it's a great way to not only to get your business out there too. So thank you.
Your Honor. Your Honor.
Yes. Go ahead, Zach.
Is that all business? Is that all businesses? All businesses?
Yes.
Anybody.
Yeah. Okay. That's all I wanted to know. Thank you.
Yes, and I say that, Mr. Mayor, because this isn't a children's event.
Right.
So it's aimed at the general public, which, you know what I mean.
Thank you, sir. That's what I was asking.
Thanks for asking that, Zach.
No problem.
Any further public appearance?
I see none, Your Honor.
Thank you. Now, what did you want to do next?
Agenda item number 28, the presentation by Minigar and Associates.
Okay, let's do that.
Sure. Council members, on the phone, Mr. Minigar, who's been working with us, myself and Rainey Torrance and the rest of the staff to be able to get this together. We were lucky enough to receive a grant to be able to get this completed by Caltrans. So it's a $40,000 grant with a $4,000 match. So we're very fortunate that we were able to do this local roadway safety plan. This makes us eligible for other grants. And so basically, this is one of the main reasons why we want to have a meeting today, was to be able to get this through so we can get it adopted and Rainey Torrance can apply for a different grant. So that being said, Mr. Minigar has been working diligently. He's actually also working on our citywide traffic study that will be at the next council meeting. So with that, I'd like to put the presentation on. Mr. Minigar.
And just add on is Fred's not only one of the best traffic engineers in the state, he's also on the city council in Laguna together. So he sat where you're sitting. Fred, it's all yours.
Thank you very much, Mr. City Manager. Good evening, Mayor Williams and the honorable city council members. It's a great pleasure for me to be in front of you via Zoom to present to you the Needles Local Roadway Safety Plan. Next slide, please. On August the 8th, we established a stakeholders meeting with all the representatives from Public Works Department, San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department, San Bernardino County Fire Department, Needles Unified School District, Caltrans District 8 representative, along with Needles Chamber of Commerce and private citizens. Next, please. The local roadway safety plan is a plan that every city in the state of California has to prepare in order to be qualified for receiving funding either from the state or from federal government for any kind of transportation safety improvement. It is a major element to enhance transportation and traffic safety within each different municipality. It's a systemic approach based on proven countermeasures, solutions, which would address citywide travel safety, establishes a safe transportation environment for each city. It's 100% data driven. That would mean that we have to collect all the crash, accident, collision data from different sources and based on numbers to analyze and to come up with specific recommendations. It does facilitate collaboration among different stakeholders and partners. It identifies and prioritizes safety improvements for high collision intersections and roadway segments. And ultimately, it would create an eligible list for receiving the highway safety improvement plans grant funding from the state of California and also from the federal government. Next, please. The local roadway safety plan clearly, the map that you see is comprised of meeting with the stakeholders and then analyzing the data, then coming up with specific solutions, obviously proven solutions in other cities, other municipalities, other counties in the US, and then to implement, to construct, and ultimately to maintain those safety plans. And every year or so, each city in California has to review its safety, data to see where there need to be a fine tuning or to come up with new countermeasures for those locations with potential high traffic collision numbers. Next, please. The LRSP development process is comprised of 6 specific phases. One, as I mentioned, to establish the leadership. In this case was to identify the stakeholders for your city. 2, to analyze all the safety data from SWITR's database, which is CHP office in Sacramento, along with Tim's data, which is from UC Berkeley. And then to determine emphasis areas. The emphasis areas in the city of Needles were comprised of 4 distinct areas. One was to identify high collision intersections, high collision roadway segments, to look at rear end collisions due to driving or bicycling under the influence of alcohol and unsafe speeds. And number 4 was for analyzing broadside collisions due to improper turning. Then within the process, number 4 is to identify strategies for those areas that we've had high collisions. Number 5, to prioritize and incorporate those strategies into a specific plan to be ratified, to be approved by the city council, and that's the purpose of this presentation to you. And number 6, as I said, to update and basically look at every year's traffic collision to see where there is a need for fine tuning or to look at those potential problem areas. Next slide, please. The vision of the plan, LRSP plan for the city of Needles, is basically simple: safe public roads across Needles. The mission to ensure that all modes of travel on Needles public roadways are taken into account. The goal is to go toward 0 fatalities and serious injuries in the entire city of Needles. We had a 5 E's approach to address all these collisions. Number 1, obviously, engineering. Number 2, enforcement. Number 3, education. Number 4, emergency services. And number 5, to look into emerging technologies that we can reduce, we can eliminate all those traffic crashes and collisions. Next slide, please. This is the most important slide that you need to remember. The takeaway from this presentation ought to be from this slide. We did an X-ray of the city of Needles between January 1st, 2017, all the way to December 31st, 2021. In a time frame of 5 years, in the entire city of Needles, there were 74 traffic collisions, 5 victims killed, 102 victims injured, 7 pedestrian collisions, 42 state highway collisions. Based on the data that we collected, again, from CHP office in Sacramento and UC Berkeley's TIMS database, the city of Needles, from a ranking perspective in the state of California, let's put it in perspective. There are 484 cities in California within 58 counties. The ranking of the city of Needles is 63 out of 74 peer cities, meaning that city of Needles is in category of group F. Group F is comprised of those cities in California that have the same kind of number of people or the same population. The ranking again for city of Needles is 63 out of 74 cities. What does it mean to you, elected officials in the city of Needles? That means your city, from a traffic safety perspective, from a traffic collisions / accidents / crashes, you are in a very good standing. The higher the number, the worse that your city standing is. So having a rank of 63 out of 74 peer cities, honestly, that's excellent. But we are here to present to you those locations that we identified to have high number of collisions and to come up with specific and explicit recommendations to improve those intersections and or street segments that we can eliminate those crashes. The goal in the state of California, based on the mandate from the governor, and also the same goes with President Biden in the US, is to move towards zero crashes, zero fatalities. With that goal in mind, we analyzed your intersections, and what you see, the top, the bottom table that you see on the right-hand side of this slide shows you those top 5 intersections in your city that have had the highest number of traffic collisions. Number 1 intersection is West Broadway and J Street with a total number of 6 collisions. Number 2 is West Broadway Street and South L Street. Number 3, West Broadway and E Street. Number 4, West Broadway and Walnut. And number 5 is North K Street and Needles Highway. These are the top 5 high collision intersections in your city that we looked at them from a from purely engineering perspective to see how we can come up with improvements so that there would be zero fatalities and zero collisions. Then also on this slide at the bottom left, you see a table. That table is the table for the highest ranked street segments in your city. Number 1 street segment happens to be along Needles Highway. Number 2, along National Old Trails. Number 3, San Clemente Street. Number 4, Lily Hill Drive. And number 4 is North K Street. We have come up with specific recommendations to improve the geometry, improve signing and striping, improve lane configuration so that at those 5 locations, we would be able to reduce and eliminate the crashes that we have encountered there. Let's move on to the next slide, please. This is a sample safety data analysis for the top 2 intersections in your city. As I mentioned, the intersection number 1 from a traffic collision perspective is West Broadway Street and J Street. As you can see, the number of collisions is shown on the left of the table, and we have also identified the primary collision factor. Why we have had 3 collisions there. And based on our analysis, it has been because of traffic signals and signs there. And there were also 3 collisions there because of unsafe speeds. So as you can see at the bottom of the table, on the left-hand side, we have come up with specific recommendations to eliminate those types of crashes and collisions for location number 1. We have done similar type of assessment for intersection number 2, which is West Broadway Street and L Street, that we've come up with a list of 4 recommendations to make that intersection safer. Next slide, please. When we identified the high collision intersections and high collision street segments, then we developed a list of countermeasures, list of improvements for those locations, either intersections or street segments. As you can see on the top right side of the slide, this is a toolbox specifically created for the city of Needles. In that toolbox, we identified, the type of the countermeasure, the type of improvement solution that we are proposing. And then we identified that by improving those intersections, how we can improve the collision modification factors for those areas, and how we can have the best crash reduction factor for those areas. What we have done is purely based on engineering assessment of those intersections and those street segments. Next, please. Our analysis was based on considering all the physical characteristics of the roadway network by looking at plans, looking at maps, looking at the photos, doing field inspection, field reconnaissance, and field assessments of those specific high collision intersections and high collision street segments. Once we analyzed those intersections and street segments, then we came up with those specific improvement plans that you can see on the next slide. This is a sample of the top 2 intersections and top 2 roadway segments. We came up with engineering solutions by specifically identifying what needs to be done for each approach, for each signalized intersection, for each unsignalized intersection, for the signing and striping, and any other potential improvements that we could conceivably perform at those intersections, so that at the end, not only we can eliminate those crashes, collisions, accidents, but also those locations and those improvements would be qualified for getting grants from the state of California. That would mean that myself as an elected official, anytime I look at these, to get the taxes back from Sacramento that you have paid over the years. This is the best part of it. Based on the package that we have prepared, and it was in that comprehensive report that was submitted to the city, we have come up with almost $250,000 of improvements that happen to be all qualified and eligible by the state of California, and also from Federal Highway Administration's perspective, for getting the funding to make those improvements in your city. Next slide, please. This is a clear sample for the highest ranked collision intersection in your city, which happens to be the intersection of West Broadway Street at J Street. For this, on this slide, you see the specific recommendations that we have made to improvise, to improve that intersection, so that this intersection would no longer be on the top, 1 or top 5 or top 10 high collision locations in your city. Let's move on to the second slide. Next slide is for intersection number 2. This is the specific recommendation that we are making for intersection number 2 for West Broadway Street and L Street. that with those improvements, your city is qualified to get funding from the state as well as the federal government, depending upon which funding source you would be pursuing. Of course, the obvious funding source would be highway safety improvement plans, which I believe the applications are due September 12th of within the next 2 weeks or so. And with these plans in place and the report that would be ratified, the plan that would be ratified by your city council tonight, then your city would be qualified to compete with other cities in the same kind of population group to to look for funding to make these improvements. Next, please. This is another example of safety improvements for intersection number 5, which is North K Street and Needles Highway. And in the sake of time, I just want to leave it there that the improvements are pretty much standard. And by the way, these improvements recommendations that we are making for the high collision locations and also for the pedestrian and bicyclists would be they are all approved by Caltrans, the state of California, as well as Federal Highway Administration. So these improvements are pretty much standard for that kind of traffic collision or that kind of activity that we've had in the city that we're making the recommendations for. Next, please. This is the number 1 roadway segment with the highest number of collisions in the city of Needles. This is Needles Highway from T Street to Ray Street that we are making those specific recommendations with yellow numbers that you see on the roadway. Those are the specific 8 recommendations that we're making to make it safer for the motoring public and also for the commuters and for the visitors that would be utilizing Needles Highway. The next slide would have the recommendations for roadway segment number 2, which is the National Old Trails Road, with the specific improvements that we have made there. Let's move to the next slide, please. This is a sample of our cost estimations and benefit cost ratios for intersection number 1. And this is how we have calculated those based on the benefits that those improvements would bring in, for example, to this specific intersection. We have calculated the safety improvements, travel time improvements, vehicle operating cost, reductions, emission reductions, and we've come up with the total benefits. For example, for this intersection, which happens to be intersection number 1, would be $3.26 million, and we've identified the benefit cost ratio for that location intersection to be at 77.88, which would make it very qualified and eligible when you submit that to Caltrans District 8 in San Bernardino. Then the ranking of that location would be on the high side because of the benefit cost ratio for that. Next slide, please. The next steps would be at this time, at this juncture tonight at the City Council, that we are requesting that the City Council to ratify, to approve the LRSP plan for the City of Needles. It's a formal protocol that every city in California has to go through the process. Once this plan is ratified by the City Council, then the plan can officially be submitted to the State of California for requesting, for receiving funds, and preferably grants, which is, I call it free money, is the taxes that you paid all over the years to come back to local. I call it, we need more local control in this case. So that money to be spent in your city to improve those intersections and to improve those roadway segments that have had traffic collisions. And the plan is good for 5 years from the ratification date, which would be tonight. But we highly suggest that every year the traffic crashes, collision reports to be reviewed just to make sure that, you don't have other hot spots in reference to traffic collisions? If so, then those intersections or those segments to be analyzed, and then this plan to be revised or amended, if you will, so that you can look for identification of, new and future funding. As I said earlier, this plan would qualify your city to pursue funding by applying to the Highway Safety Improvement Program, HSIP, Cycle 11. The deadline is, I guess, midnight, September 11th. With that, I'll be more than happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, as you can see, why we were so pleased to be able to hire Menegar and Associates was he is targeted, identified the physical improvements, and they qualify for funding from the Office of Traffic Safety and other funding sources. So our request would be that you adopt the study tonight and authorize staff to apply for local street safety improvements.
Mr. Daniels, it's Rainey. I just wanted to let council know that we are applying for the funding for everything that Fred has presented tonight on September 15th. So thank you.
Need a motion?
Yeah, did you?
I'll move to approve. I mean, I think this is great. It's kind of a easy fix and get it paid for. I mean, yeah.
I'll
I'll
second that.
second it. Oh,
Councilmember Merritt,
yes.
Councilmember Campbell,
Yes.
Councilmember Belt,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Pageant,
Yes.
Councilmember Longacre. Councilmember Longacre, are you there? Oh, you're muted. Councilmember Longacre, please unmute yourself. Councilmember Longacre, are you there?
*6 unmute.
We still have enough votes to pass the motion. Yeah.
We still have enough votes.
I just texted him.
Mrs. Campbell is on the phone as well.
Yes.
Thank you for joining us, Councilmember Campbell.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Mr. Mayor, you have enough votes to pass this.
Councilmember Longacre just texted me and said that he was having problems with his audio, but that he can hear and his vote is a yes.
Mayor Williams, are you still present in the meeting?
No, he can hear, but he can't. He passed his vote.
Okay, so Okay, so we still have a quorum, even though we don't have the mayor.
All right. Okay. That was passed. The action passes. I'll take over, run the meeting until you get the mayor back. Let's-
Going?
All right. Okay. Consent calendar. We'd like a motion to approve consent items 4 through 23 and 30 through 40, unless there are any items which any member of the council would like to pull. And if so, those items will be brought up after the appropriate portion.
Mr. Mayor,
Your Honor, can you hear me?
yeah, we can now.
Yeah, I was never unmuted. This system is screwed up really bad, and having 7 people text me at the same time while I'm trying to call back is near impossible. So please bear with me if I break away again. Thank you.
I just for the record, it does not appear to be an issue on the city side. If it were, we would have to stop the meeting, but it appears that everybody else is able to, communicate, and the meeting appears to be working. If that changes, then, we'll have to revisit whether we have to stop the meeting.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
Counselor Longacre, this is the point where you want to pull item 14.
Yes, okay, I'm sorry, I didn't even hear any of that part. Absolutely, I would like to pull item number 14. My question on it, Your Honor, is actually, because it was in consent, there was no price. I would just like to know what the renegotiation of the contract was price-wise for the, how do I say this? The Sheriff's Department had a renegotiation since we've met last on their contract. I just was unaware of the cost and would like that stated. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
the cost is, the labor cost for the sheriff's contract went up $80,000 as a result of the labor negotiations. You can either accept that now, or pull it off the agenda and deal with it separately.
I'm not pulling it off the agenda. I just didn't know the number, so I wanted to make sure that
$80,814.
Thank you very much, sir. That's all I had on it, Your Honor. I wasn't pulling it to not vote on it.
All right.
I just wanted to know the number value. Thank you.
Okay.
Your Honor,
Yes.
I'm so sorry. I missed the beginning of the meeting. I was in the ER. I had a question regarding something with the Sheriff's Department, and I had spoken to Rick about it yesterday. And is this item 14 where I would address that? I need to ask Rick, or is that at a different point in our agenda?
Yes, Councilmember Campbell, that item will be discussed 14 later. We're looking for a motion now in order to make sure that we get the item number 34 passed. So
Okay, I will move to approve the consent calendar, pulling number 14.
And 24 through 29.
24 through 29.
Correct deal?
Yes, sir.
We're approving consent calendar items 4 through 23, pulling 14, and consent calendar items 30 through 40. Are there any other items the council would like to pull from consent? 40. And I've noted the 2 abstentions from Councilmember Merritt and Longacre.
Thank you.
And I have one on 12.
I'll second it.
Do we have a motion?
Yes, Your Honor.
Campbell.
Councilmember Campbell
Oh,
made.
yes, okay. All right, we have a motion by Councilmember Campbell, a second by Councilmember Belt. Call for the vote.
Councilmember Merritt,
Yes.
Campbell,
Yes.
Pageant,
Yes.
Belt,
Yes.
Longacre.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Presentations. A 10-minute time limit per person has been established by Municipal Code Section 2-18. Presentation by Captain Ross Tarango of the 2021 City of Needles Annual Crime Statistics.
Good evening. You have before you the 2021 crime statistics report. Every year, the department gathers statistics for every jurisdiction we patrol. And as you can see, overall crime rate is up 24% in the city of Needles. Part 1 crimes increased 9% from the prior year. Part 2 crimes, which are mainly the low-level type of crimes, increased 32%. So the city saw that overall increase, and most notably is the increase in violent crime of 10%. Our calls for service are an 11-year high, and this equates to more than 1.5 calls for service per hour. And keep in mind that there's still a gap of 40 hours a week where we only have 1 deputy on patrol, and that's typically during the daytime. Our bookings were up from the prior year. However, we still see continued restrictions on our ability to book people because of the state COVID regulations that we must abide by in our correctional facilities. But we stay focused on holding people accountable. Our reports rose 16% over the prior year, which also increased the deputies' workload. So down at the bottom of the first page, you see a graph comparing the 5-year crime statistics. And now that we're coming out of COVID, where we had a slight dip, we see things are swinging back to where they once were with the increase in crime. The top of the second page is a graph on the workload. So you've got the total call volume, which again is at an 11-year high. Reports are up, and our bookings are up from the prior year also. This next section is the department overall crime statistics countywide. And as you can see, crime is up in all areas: violent crime, aggravated assaults, property crimes. In fact, aggravated assaults are at a 5-year high countywide. So we're seeing more and more violence committed out on the streets. And I think we can attribute this to the many law changes from the state, everything from the reduction of penalties for drug possession to the legalization of drugs to reduction of penalties for theft, the prison realignment where prisoners were released from state prison into the communities, which is still ongoing. So the impact is very high, and the time now for more public safety is more than ever. We continue to actively recruit and try and hire people. It's become increasingly difficult to find people that can pass backgrounds. Our department is down over 200 deputy sheriffs countywide, and this is not unique to us. Most agencies in the state are down people. I just read an article where LAPD is down 800 officers. CHP is trying to hire 1,000. So the market is more competitive than ever. And this kind of touches on the increase in the contract that the deputies negotiated, where compensation for law enforcement in California, like I said, is more competitive than ever. And unless this county stays competitive, we won't be able to hire people, we won't be able to retain people, and that's going to severely affect our ability to respond to all these increases in crimes. The next section is our social media and public information platforms, which you see we have the 3 different social media platforms: Instagram, Facebook, and station Twitter. These are updated virtually daily. They're open. You don't need a Twitter account or Facebook account to view them. Anybody can go on there and view all the information. We put our press releases on there, our community events, any activities we're involved in. So it's a good way for people to see what's going on in the sheriff's department directly by going straight to the source, which is through these mediums. I also included the various ways people can find out different things about bookings and crime trends, which the ability to access our dispatch call log through our department website, the crime mapping application, which you can download on your phone. And that's updated daily, so it'll have a map of where the various crimes are being committed in all the areas served by the Sheriff's Department, not just Needles. Is also included as a booking locator where if you want to find out if someone's been booked, you can look there. And also San Bernardino court cases. If you want to find out the status of criminal cases, you can look there. And I also included the FBI Violent Crime and Property Statistics website that publishes violent crime rates of cities throughout the nation. Unfortunately, the last time they updated was 2019, so we're still waiting for something more recent. On the third page is a list of all the various community events we participate in, kids programs at the school, the various events throughout town. In fact, October 26th, Wednesday, we'll be holding our annual trunk or treat in our parking lot here. So that's always a good event. We enjoy doing that. And on the last page, at the top is a breakdown of the various resources that the city of Needles has at its disposal that aren't included in or aren't paid for by the city in the contract. Everything from our specialized enforcement division, which is our SWAT team, to our recruitment and training division, which is a huge logistical endeavor to get people hired and trained. And also a list of the local support services personnel we have at our station that work our front counter, that do our secretarial duties. I also included a list of our department telephone numbers. We still see people calling our business line to request a deputy or to report crimes. The 9200 number is our business line, so if you need to leave a message for someone or need to contact a detective on a follow-up, that's the number to call. But if you need a deputy to respond and it's not an emergency, the number to call is the 956-5001. That gets you directly to our dispatch center. They enter a call, goes directly to the deputy's computers, and they respond. Calling the 9200 number just delays things because there's a phone tree. Ultimately, you will get the dispatch, but it'll take much longer. So we always recommend people call the 5001 number. Obviously, if it's a crime in progress or there's an emergency, call 911. Again, keep in mind if you call 911 from your cell phone, depending on what tower it is, it may not go to us. It could go to the highway patrol. It could go to Arizona DPS in Phoenix. It could go to Las Vegas Metro in Las Vegas. So unfortunately, that's an ongoing problem that'll probably never be fixed. So we always make people aware when you call 911 on a cell phone, it may not go to us. If you call from a landline, it will go to us. It will show your address with cross streets and your exact location. So I know a lot of people are getting away from landlines, but if you do call from a landline, we'll have your exact address. And then to conclude, of course, our future projects, we continue to do ongoing community-oriented policing projects, try and prevent crimes, to try and target those individuals that are committing a large number of the crimes, and hopefully prevent violent crimes from occurring. Of course, we're going to continue to participate in community events and increase our school engagement programs with anti-drug awareness presentations. And I want to let everyone know that we are in the final phases of finalizing our station remodel architectural design. And by the end of the year, hopefully, we will start construction on the remodel and expansion of our station, which we really need because the infrastructure is old and we're out of room. So that'll be a good thing for the community to have a nice modern facility where people can come and contact us, meet us here during our various community events. So that I can answer any questions anyone might have.
Thank you, Your Honor. I do have a question. Your Honor, can you hear me?
Yes. Yes, go
Okay,
ahead, Dawn.
I do have, okay. First of all, I want to thank you, Ross. What a great report. a lot of information. I really like the information you put on the websites for people to check all of that information, because that's really very valuable information. And thank you for bringing attention to the cell phone versus the house phone. I was going to ask you to address that. The question I have, and at the risk of crossing lines, I don't want to cross lines here. I don't want to get involved in an open investigation or ask you sensitive information. But several months ago, we had a really horrible situation that happened here in Needles, where 3 of our grow houses were broken into. And it caused I'm sure it caused the sheriff's department great stress. It caused the city great stress, and it caused the facilities, the owners, extreme great stress, and it still is. So I wanted to know if there was anything that you could tell us about that, as far as I didn't, did anyone get arrested? Did you find anything, or is this just an open investigation?
I really can't speak to any details of that investigation or any active criminal investigation, other than it is still ongoing.
Okay, well, that answers that you did not arrest anyone, so, because that would be public record. Okay, and I couldn't find anything. So, okay, that was the only question, and I do want to thank you. I really love your report and the information that you gave us. And I want to thank your officers for everything that they do for us, you too, everything that you do for all of us. Thank you very much for
You're
serving.
welcome.
All right.
That is all.
Any other questions by the council?
I want to, one more point. Ross, I really appreciate you guys putting up this community events. It just shows how much you are involved in our community. And I love people knowing all the things that you do for us that are not just law related. So I appreciate that. This is exactly what I've always wanted. I love these little things you do. I appreciate it. Thank you for
Yeah,
everything.
and we love doing them, and we love putting all that information on our social
Social media.
media. I know our guys have a lot of fun with it. So yeah, we're going to continue to keep that ongoing.
Thank you. And
Thank you.
yes.
With that, item number 2, Chamber of Commerce to introduce the new board and executive board members and an update on the El Garza Visitor Center.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Mark Orr, current president of Needles Chamber of Commerce. I'd like to start off by introducing our new board. We have 2 existing board members, George DeLeon with St. Vincent de Paul, Michelle Cropsey with Needle Mania Quilt Club. New members, including myself, Shay Williamson from Carl's Jr., Eric Hall at Econo Smog and Tune, Jason Snyder, Carl's Jr., Lori Long, Circle K, and Amber Williams, Ambi Sweet Shop. As far as updates on the El Garces building, right now we're being held up by fire prevention systems. We have to have above the drop ceiling, below the drop ceiling in order to be within fire code. That is not completed at this time. I believe we're waiting on some parts, and we're also waiting on the contractor to have the time to do the labor. He gave us some good news, saying he would possibly be there in November. So right now we're on a move in as soon as possible program, if you will. And that's about it right now. Is there any questions on that?
Questions by the council? See none. Any questions by the public? Thank you, Mark.
Have a good evening.
Welcome, Mark.
Thank you, Mark.
Item number 3. Public hearing notice to consider all evidence and testimony for against approval of ordinance number 652-AC, amending the Needles Municipal Code section 98.08 dwelling unit, adding accessory dwelling unit, and section 96.00 table of permissible uses. Staff report.
Honorable Mayor and members of the council, are in front of you. You've got an ordinance that should look familiar. You've seen this before. The ADU ordinance was in front of you in 2020. Basically, what the process is, let me step back. So state law requires us to have this approved as an ADU ordinance. So we go through the process and we've adopted it. And then once it was adopted, we sent it over to HCD for review. They came back, and when I say HCD, I hate to use acronyms, so it's the Department of Housing and Community Development. So basically, they addressed a couple issues in our ordinance that they wanted to see fixed, and you could see that in the submittal that was provided to you. Basically, it's a couple is, ands, ors, a couple information about some permits. Basically, the goal here is to not limit development. The state of California is in a dire drought of housing, and so they're trying to promote as much housing as they can. And they actually look at the city of Needles and its ordinance as a gold star. As Commissioner Beard pointed out, we were just at a conference with HCD last Friday, and they were little Needles in front of all these different cities was able to boast about our ADU process and ordinance, because basically we permit a significant amount of units on a property if it's permitted. So as we talked about before, it's 2 primary units, 2 ADU units, and a junior ADU. So that's 5 units that if you've got capacity on your property, you'll be able to utilize. And so we're actually, the state really has a near and dear heart for the city of Needles. And with that, our recommendation is that we approve the red line comments that we've corrected for HCD and approve ordinance 652-AC amending the municipal code to add, these sections to our permissible use table and our dwelling unit section of the code. And I am now available for any questions that you might have.
No questions by the council?
I'd like to make a motion.
Just a minute, we need to have public input first.
Okay.
Hold on a minute. Yes. Okay. I'll now close the consideration by the council, open the matter to public input. Anyone want to speak on this matter? Seeing none, you can go ahead, Zach.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to approve ordinance number 652-AC. We need housing in this city, so let's do this.
I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion by Councilmember Lopez, a second by Councilmember Belt. Call for the vote.
Councilmember Campbell,
Yes.
Merritt,
Yes.
Belt,
Yes.
Longacre.
Yes.
Thank you.
Item number 4, this is, pardon me. NPUA Council Consent Calendar. All matters listed on the consent calendar are considered to be routine and will be enacted by one motion in the form listed. The mayor or any member of the NPUA City Council may pull an item from the consent calendar for discussion. Prior to NPUA council action, a member of the public may address the NPUA City Council on matters scheduled on the consent calendar. A 3-minute time limit per person applies. Recommended action is approval of 4 through 8. And we did do that already. Is that correct? Okay, we'll move on then to items number.
The next item that was pulled off of consent was agenda item number 14, I believe, for discussion.
Okay. Item number 14, revised Schedule A of the consent County of San Bernardino Law Enforcement Services Contract number 99-376, reflecting additional cost based on the new labor regulations for law enforcement staff. Staff report.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, we talked about this a little bit earlier. The city had entered into an agreement with the sheriff's office for an annual cost of 3.369 million. And the labor agreements they entered increased that by 80,814 for a total revised cost for law enforcement of $3.45 million is the final item. So this is not really an optional piece, but I wanted to, we needed to make the budget adjustment to make sure we had accuracy on the budget obligation.
And Your Honor,
Yes,
I pulled this because I couldn't find the money amount of the change, so that's why I asked to pull it. I have no problem voting for this. I just couldn't find the price. That was all. That's why I pulled it earlier.
all right. Is that a motion to,
Yeah, I make a motion to approve
Item
agenda item number
I
14.
second. I'll
okay,
second.
we have a motion by Councilmember Lopez, second by Councilmember Campbell. I'm sorry. I said Lopez. Councilmember
That's all
Longacre,
right.
please excuse my mental break there.
Absolutely fine, Your Honor.
Thank you. Call for the vote, please.
Councilmember Merritt,
Yes.
Campbell,
Yes.
Belt,
Yes.
Longacre.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, now we can end consent calendar,
Agenda item number 24.
which is a regular item. We'll now move on. Item number 24, authorize the allocation of the second tranche of the state and local fiscal recovery funds, SLFRF, as follows. Replace revenue loss due to the pandemic. Transient occupancy tax of $127,362, sales tax of $17,042, and replace $2,500 pledged by Legacy for the youth program, $2,500 for San Bernardino County Sheriff for the youth program, and $16,000 to recover FEMA grant expenditures not reimbursed, and request council direction to allocate the balance of $429,767 to the general reserve. Staff report.
You said it. We got the second tranche of federal funding for COVID. We covered what we could, and we're recommending putting $429,767 into reserve for future use for COVID-related activities.
Any questions by the council? All right, any comments from the public? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve.
Second it.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilmember Campbell, seconded by Councilmember Belt. Call for the vote.
Councilmember Campbell,
Yes.
Merritt,
Yes.
Belt,
Yes.
Longacre.
Yes.
Thank you.
Item 25, authorize Councilmember Campbell and those interested to attend the Innovating Commerce Serving Community ICSC event in San Diego Convention Center on September 28th through 30th of this year. And that is the International Conference of Shopping Centers.
Mayor, this is our one of our major events where we do retail marketing to retail establishments to locate in the city of Needles. Councilmember Campbell is requested to attend, but if there are others that want to attend, now would be the time to identify yourself.
All right, do we have any members of the council that would like to attend? Do we still have Jeff on board? Okay, will you check with him too? Also, thank you.
So, Mr. Mayor, we would need an action to authorize Councilmember Campbell and Mayor Williams if he's interested.
I'll move to approve.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilmember Belt, a second by Councilmember Longacre. Call for the vote.
Councilmember Campbell,
Yes.
Merritt,
Yes.
Belt,
Yes.
Longacre.
Yes.
Thank you.
Item 26, Authorize those interested to attend the California Cannabis Control Summit to be held on October 12th through 13th at the Hilton Sacramento Arden West.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, the annual Cannabis Control Summit, held but primarily, dealing with, local government and state, regulation of the industry. Their conference is coming up. Councilor Longacre, had expressed an interest in going, and I wanted to make that option available to anybody else who had an interest in going.
Your Honor, I have a quick question on that. Rick,
Yeah.
it's the 12th and the 13th, which is a Wednesday and Thursday. Would we be returning that Thursday or that Friday?
Depending on, I can't answer that right now because if the session goes to like 6 o'clock or so, it depends on flights and availability. But we
I'm gonna
could,
pass. I'm gonna pass. I can't adjust that the following Friday. I can't get out of it for work, so.
okay,
I'm
but
going to have to pass.
if we, Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
Counselor, if we could make it work for the 13th, would you still be interested?
Absolutely.
Okay, all right,
Absolutely.
let me work on that.
All right, thank you.
All right, I might have an interest in this.
Okay.
I'll talk to you tomorrow. Do we need to an action here? Oh, maybe the motion be, that Longacre to possibly adjust his schedule to be able to attend. And me possibly. Discussion regard, item 27. Any further?
Do we need a motion?
We need a motion.
I'll move to approve.
I move. I'll second it.
Okay. All right, we have a motion by Councilmember Campbell, a second by Councilman Merritt.
That was
You've
great.
been so quiet. Please go ahead. Call for the vote.
Councilmember Campbell,
Yes, that was awesome.
Merritt,
Yes.
Belt,
Yes.
Longacre.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, item 27, discussion regarding a proposed date, location, and budget for the employee appreciation event. This was something that Councilmember Belt brought up. Staff report.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, Councilor Belt wanted some, input as to date. And, the council does have $8,000 that's budgeted for special events across the entire year. So it would be to use part of it here.
I'm gonna need that off for the Christmas party. It's a little bit of an expensive event.
Okay. So do you have a date in mind?
Well, we need to discuss that. I'm just thinking, I don't know if the Friday before the first weekend because of, that's the
December
first
2nd?
weekend, is the Christmas in the park.
Yeah, it's on the first Saturday of
It's usually the
December.
first Saturday, so the third. I don't know if that's rented out then or will it be used? So I think we just need to kind of discuss that
Well,
to
with
see
your
what,
concurrence, we could tentatively set it for the second, subject to clearance with Mrs. Jernigan.
Yeah, and
It's not otherwise spoken for.
Okay.
And with authorization up to 8,000.
All right, is there a motion?
I'll move to
I'll move to
approve.
approve.
All right. We have,
Sorry, I'll second it.
all right, okay. We have a motion by Councilmember Belt. We have a second by Councilmember Merritt. Call for the vote, please.
Councilmember Campbell. Oh, Councilmember Campbell, can you
read
unmute
yes.
yourself?
Yes.
Merritt,
Yes.
Belt,
Yes.
Longacre.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, now let's go on. Item 28 has already been discussed.
29 got moved.
41,
29,
41.
what happened to 29?
There was consent.
41.
Or
Public
29 was
hearing.
continued, I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
41.
Okay, moving on then to item 41, end of the consent calendar, regular, authorize those interested in attending the 2022 San Bernardino County State of the County at the Ontario Convention Center on October 5th, 2022, at an approximate cost of $404 per council member. Really?
Mr. Mayor, and members of the council, the annual State of the County address is set for October 5th.
400 bucks.
What?
It's basically for reimbursement of mileage there and back.
It's the biggest cost is miles, is the mileage, but I know that I believe Vice Mayor Paget's already there
Yes,
because of the San Bernardino County Transportation
that's
Authority,
correct.
of which they pay his mileage to go to
Right.
those meetings. So if anybody else wants to go, let us know.
Okay, do we have anybody from the council wants to go?
I'll-
Don't see
Ready
anyone.
for that one.
Please, if you change your
I'm having
mind.
we're having a baby,
I
we're
can
having
try.
a baby that week. I can't go anywhere.
No.
Okay,
I'm interested, but I'm not sure. So that's a tentative maybe for me.
okay,
Tentative.
Maybe, got
Okay,
it.
and you two can carpool. So,
okay.
Hit the cost.
We need a motion.
I would move to approve whoever decides to go. Is that okay?
I'll second that.
Does that work?
No, I don't think that's appropriate. I don't think that. I think whomever is just too broad. You've got to name somebody.
there's names for
Okay,
That would be Vice Mayor Pageant, Councilmember Belt, and Councilmember Merritt, maybe.
that. Yes.
yes. All right,
Second it.
You three.
you got it?
Got it.
Okay, call for the vote.
Councilmember Campbell,
Yes.
Merritt,
Yes.
Belt,
Yes.
Longacre.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Provide council direction on the League of California Cities proposed resolution to be considered at the league conference, resolution relating to amendments to the California city bylaws. Basically, Councilmember Campbell and I are going to attend that League of Cities. Is there anyone else that was? Oh, we are the two delegates.
You're the two delegates.
Okay, and someone has to be the voting delegate, and we have to name the voting delegate.
You've been both identified as alternates.
Okay, one of them has to be the voting delegate and one has to be the alternate.
Are you volunteering?
You have to have, well, I don't care, but either, the matter they have to vote on is crazy, so.
I am going to move to approve with Vice Mayor Edward Pageant being the voting member.
Fine. Is there a second?
Is that
I'll-
okay?
Second it.
Okay, I have a motion by Councilmember Campbell, a second by Councilmember Belt. Call for the vote.
Councilmember Campbell,
Yes.
Merritt,
Yes.
Belt,
Yes.
Longacre.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Mayor, then to the substance, there are 4 or 5 resolutions in here. They are all kind of internal workings of the organization. They have no substantive impact to the city. So a motion to authorize the voting delegate to vote accordingly would be appropriate.
Yes. Need someone to make a motion to direct me to vote for the motion.
I'll make the motion to direct you to vote.
I'll
Second it.
second it.
Okay, call for the vote.
Councilmember Campbell,
Yes.
Merritt,
Yes.
Belt,
Yes.
Longacre.
Yes.
Thank you.
And thank you for everybody for putting up with this evening. City Attorney's report.
Yes, just briefly, Mr. Mayor. Our office, in terms of what we've been doing for the city, we continue to represent the city in the Rio Buena Vista case. As you know, we prevailed at the trial court level. The parties are now attempting to resolve the matter. It's an involved process. I can't go into any detail tonight, but we are making an effort on both sides. We are also continuing to assist the city with live scan reviews related to the cannabis industry. We're also assisting the city and have been assisting the city on labor and employment matters as they arise. We have quite a few code enforcement matters and receivership cases in furtherance of the city council's effort to clean up the city of Needles. Some of those matters were on the consent calendar this evening. We also assist the city, primarily the city clerk, with Public Records Act responses, and then responding to questions regarding conflicts of interest and also Brown Act related issues. We also researched a legal question related to the time zone change that you previously dealt with at a prior meeting. Also assisting the city staff on animal control matters. We dealt with a dog bite case in closed session this evening, and so we're assisting the city animal control department with some issues related to animal control. Also assist the city with the short-term rental TOT ballot measure, any legal issues that have come up, and then also prepared the impartial analysis as we're obligated to do as the city attorney, and then assisting staff in reviewing contracts for the city. And that's my report this evening.
Thank you. City Manager's report.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, staff is working with local broadband companies to identify gaps in our broadband system, and will be coming to you for authorization to file for grants. There's a lot of federal and state money going into what they call the last mile, and that is to try and get sufficient broadband service available to all people in the state, in particular disadvantaged rural communities. So we think that there's a very good likelihood of being able to get the entire city serviced by state-of-the-art broadband communications. It has been identified as an impediment to youth education, not having access to broadband. Patrick mentioned that earlier the state had identified through housing community development that we are one of two, I believe, jurisdictions in San Bernardino County that will be shortly in full compliance with the housing element. The other two elements of the general plan that we're working on is transportation and land use, and we should have those pieces to you in the next short period. Earlier this week, or I guess it was late last week, we were notified that the governor has signed the off-highway vehicle legislation. And that doesn't mean you can go out and run your off-highway vehicles on public streets. What it does is it creates a pilot program where CHP, the city, and the county sheriff's office will identify trailheads and public streets that can be used to access those trailheads. And then once that report gets done and then published and adopted, then people will be able to do so. So this does not give carte blanche to use off-highway vehicles. I may have my dates off, but I believe there's a trunk or treat down at Santa Fe Park on the 29th.
Your date's correct.
And then the sheriffs are having theirs on the 27th.
26.
Right?
I thought he said 26.
26? Oh, I'm sorry. So October 26th and 29th. So there's going to be plenty of sugar in our youth. The ballot has been set. There are 3 people running for 3 vacant seats on the city council, and there are 3 people running for the mayor's position. And then there's also the applying the transit occupancy tax to short-term rentals, which act as substitute hotel rooms. But there's also, as was mentioned earlier, there's a candidates forum here in this room on September 22nd. At the golf course, it will be closed. We are taking a different approach this year. We're going to close the entire course from September 5th to October 7th and do all of the overseed at once rather than do 9 holes and then 9 holes. That's, we don't think that's worked very well in the past. And that's my report. I'd be glad to answer any questions, but you know how to get a hold of me. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Campbell? Are you there?
Yes, I am. Yes, I am, Your Honor. Request. Okay. I do have, I don't know how I do this request. In light of the stellar, incredible report that we just got from the Sheriff's Department, highlighting an entire page of all of the fabulous things that they do for our city. Thank you. Our city does a lot of really incredible things too. And I've had this discussion like lightly with Rick before, and I know he doesn't like to be in the public media or like maybe in the newspaper, but I would like to open up dialogue, discussion, have a meeting, or do whatever we have to do to talk about either having a Facebook page that is for information only. You cannot have public input on it, to put out all of the wonderful things we're doing, or actually go back to, we used to have a newspaper section where how they voted and they had things in the paper, doing something a little bit different, whether we interview Rick once a month, twice a month, anybody who's willing to be that person to go out there, to get out there and say publicly all of the things that we're doing, because there are a lot of people that do not think we do anything. And we're doing amazing things at the parks and the beaches, and you know all the things that we're doing, the changes, the things we're working towards, the goals, the roads, and I would like to see a lot more positive things coming out publicly, because I'm not particularly fond of the negativity. So that's, I don't know how we do that, but that's my request, that we talk about this in the near future. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Merritt?
Hi. Yes, I have a few things. One of them, a friend of mine who doesn't live here in town, she was telling me about a fun event she came to in Needles, the night golf tournament. She said, "Oh, it was so much fun, but it was really kind of dangerous," and was telling me all these things that went on, and like that were just like potential issues or problems. And she had no idea that the city owns a golf course. And so I said, "Oh, well, I'll mention it." She said it was an amazing event, so much fun, but she talked about like lighting in certain areas and some bottleneck areas. So if there's just something that can be done for future like night golfing events, that'd be awesome. I don't really know much more about it. She loved it, she had a good time, but she did mention a few safety concerns. Also, the Needles Museum opens back up on September 6th. If you haven't been down there, check it out. And I do want to thank Jan Jernigan and Judy Thornton. They have a lot of really fun events coming into town right now. I'm really excited about some of the things we've got going on, especially that rail cam thing she mentioned sounds awesome. I know we watch a lot of the rail cam because I have a train buff in my house. So I think that would be really cool to have Needles on there. And I know that a lot of people, come into towns that have those rail cams because I've done it. So, all right, everybody have a good night. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Belt?
The plants on the east side of L Street and the west side of J Street, we used to be, we were watering them a little bit, but now the the storms have watered them, but they're pretty much dead. A few of those cactus. I don't know if we can keep on top of that. Those were really nice at one time and just need a little bit of pickup again. And the same for our El Garza, the grass, the area is beautiful right now. I was wondering if we could try to think of we could hang some plants. I know we don't, maybe some fake plants in there too to I mean, it's just so nice right now and we're so busy with it that if we can keep that area, start with one section and keep that area that we're really, as our downtown area especially. So it's always nice when you go to somewhere and you see some flowers. I know maybe some fake ones at this point in time because it's so hot, but also food truck ordinance. I know I brought this up before, but if we can look into getting a food truck ordinance officially on the books. And then the signs going up around town for areas that we are going to start doing improvements on. I know we have a lot of money that we are going to use, but it's just nice to let people know what's coming our way, the positive things. And then when you drive by them, you actually know, oh, this area looks bad, but there is something coming. And also I want to thank the city staff for the cleanups for these last few weeks from all these storms and getting our power back on. I mean, you guys have been working tons of extra overtime hours and everybody I know pulls together, and I really appreciate all the hard work of our city and our staff. So I just want to thank them also. And have a good night.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Longacre.
Yes, Your Honor, I have a few things. I'd also like to thank city staff, our utilities team, Caltrans, CHP, and our local sheriff's department. The last few weeks have been hell out on those roads. I drive them all the time. Just going down the 95 or trying to get out on a desert highway into California was near impossible in the last week. So thank you very much. With that being said, all dead trees on city-owned property need to be evaluated now, especially cottonwoods. The one I asked for a few meetings back fell, and it blocked a whole road, and that was on the golf course. So let's definitely check those out, and while we're at it, let's look at all legacy signs. That's those 70-footers. Check the base of them. Make sure that they're not rotted. And in a windstorm, one of those comes down, it's going to kill something. You know, those are all near businesses. So let's please check those. Thank you. Burger Hut has come under disrepair. Can we please get the windows boarded up, the doors closed and locked, and the fence locked? It's time. It's bad. And last but not least, our curve on I-40. We all know the one that's had 4 semis over it in the last 2 months. I feel for Caltrans out there repairing that rail every week. This is an issue. We need to figure it out. The handrail is not enough. And that's all I have this week. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. And with that, I'd just like to thank everyone for putting up with me for this disconjured meeting.
Mayor, I have-
Go ahead. Yes, one more item.
Things
Go
I
ahead.
promise. About almost 2 weeks ago now, we had a major transmission line that crosses the freeway.
Oh, yeah.
Go down in a windstorm. It turns out we had problems at that same location about 10 years ago. This time we're putting up what's called an H structure, which is shown in the picture above. Next slide. Again, this is just a closer look at it. What happens is the power lines get swaying, and if they're on just one pole, it just snaps the top of it off. Next slide, please. Here's a closer picture. Next. This is a fence that separated. Next. Not quite sure. Next. Here's up at Duke Watkins, some of the tree damage. Next. This is out, I think, on the golf course. Next. Here's a tree, I think, at the rec center that went down, took out a fence. Next. 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 More H, new pole next. This is pole that just broke off. Next. That seems upside down, but next. These are part of the repairs that were done. Next. This is what the wind did. So those poles seem pretty solid, but in Havasu, they recorded wind gusts of up to 125 miles an hour during this storm. This is what it does to our poles. Next. 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 This is them putting up new poles. Next.
That's not.
Oh, okay. But yeah, I want to emphasize that not only our electric crews, which are second to none, but our backup crew and our water crews and public works crews all work interdependently to help get all this stuff done. We lost 20 parts or all of 25 trees at the golf course. So we've got a lot of cleanup to do there, and that's all I have.
Thank you very much. And with that, I'm going to adjourn the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.